Again, Gills fans, welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's Monday review time as I look back on Saturday's 1-1 draw between Gillingham and Wycombe Wanderers as Neil Harris's men came from a goal behind at half-time to pick up a thoroughly deserved point. As is standard, team news was announced by the Gills social media feeds at 2 p.m. and there were no real surprises. Captain Stuart O'Keefe was fit to resume battling in the middle of the park, having missed last weekend's defeat to Sunderland. So it was Josh Chambers, the youngster who'd made his first start at the Stadium of Light, dropped to the bench. So the Gills team in full was Aaron Chapman in goal, three centre-backs of Max Emart in the middle, flanked by Jack Tucker and Connor Masterson, wing-backs of David Tatonda on the left and Ryan Jackson on the right. O'Keefe, as already mentioned, in the middle of the park with Ollie Lee, Ben Thompson in the 10. It was for Dane Oliver and Charlie Kelman up front. There was also a place for the returning Robbie McKenzie on the bench, and he was to be called upon a lot earlier than anticipated as Gills lined up in their 3-5-2 system. I think it's fair to say that the game in the first period followed the pattern that pretty much every Gillingham fan and probably every Wycombe fan had envisaged when they arrived at the ground, and that was that Wycombe were going to have more of the ball. Gills were going to have to stay in their shape and be resolute defensively. We was probably going to have to play on the counter-attack despite being at home. And although we made a bright start, that is how the first 45 minutes panned out. There was a couple of changes, one for each side early on in the piece though, wasn't there? I think it was Mehmeti for the visitors had to go off after picking up a knock to the shin. It looked like he was replaced by former Gillingham frontman Brandon Hanlon, who was operating on a wide left roll. And Gills had to take off David Tatonda, who'd done really well first couple of minutes to block a ball down the line, showed real desire to get there, and looked like he jarred his knee or his ankle, unfortunately. He did come back on and try to run it off, but shortly after there was a ball that got played towards him and he was trying to help it on with his knee rather than his left foot. And then he was running with a really heavy limp. So Neil Harris, Dave Livermore, the medical staff made that decision. So Robbie McKenzie came on inside the first quarter of an hour in a straight swap at left wing back, and got a lot more minutes than he probably thought he would do, having only just returned, having missed the last few games. But yeah, the game settled into its pattern. Wycombe had more of it. We were comfortable enough in defending with the ball in front of us. They weren't really getting in behind, not getting to the byline. But their first chance fell to Gareth McCleary, he who scored in the return fixture at Adams Park in October. We know what he's all about. He's still got a decent amount of pace, even though he's mid-30s now. He's always had really good feet, and it was them good feet that managed to get him a shooting opportunity, left-footed as he cut inside, and I think there's a nick off one of our centre-backs. So in fairness to Aaron Chapman, all his weight was going the other way, and then gets down and gets a big right hand onto it and keeps it out, goes out for a corner. But it was short-lived, wasn't it? It was only a small rebuke, as a couple of minutes later Wycombe took the lead. For me, there's a foul on for Dane Oliver. I could probably do a whole episode on Dane Oliver and his lack of protection from officials. Could probably do a whole episode on yesterday's officials' performance. But it's a blatant foul. I think it's Fiorini, the centre-half's got hold of him. Two hands round him, holding his neck. Referee decides it's not a free kick. It's then good football from Wycombe, and we don't defend well enough. There's a couple of one-touch passes. I think it's Josh Scowen into Brandon Hanlon. He clips a lovely reverse ball in between the centre-backs, and Sam Vokes' movement is as good as it's always been, and it's a smart left-foot finish into the near post. Can Aaron Chapman do better? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, such as his form recently. But they always say if a keeper gets beat on his near post, then he probably can do better. But it was 1-0 to Wycombe, and we had to regroup, and we had to stay in the game, and we had to make sure we kept it at 1 at worst. And if we could get to half-time, then so be it. We could have a team talk. We could, make changes. They had another chance, didn't they? Max Emart just missed out in a 50-50. I think it was Daryl Horgan. Drove towards the edge of the box, left-footed snapshot that Chapman managed to beat up into the air and then grab at the second attempt. But then we were still in it. We were still making sure that Wycombe knew we were making sure they were in a game, And two really good deliveries from out wide. First one from Ryan Jackson, just over the head of Dane Oliver, who's stretching, can't got anything to get on it. I think that move then ended with Connor Masterson driving one over from about 25 yards. Shortly after, Robbie McKenzie on the left-hand side, darts in onto his right foot, puts a really good ball in between the centre-backs. And Verdane gets there, and he'd probably say, we know how good he is, he should hit the target. But he doesn't, it goes into the Brian Moore stand. But it was just a warning across the bows, wasn't it, of Gareth Ainsworth's men that we were there, we were going to cause of a threat. I mean, it ended the first half with us trailing by 1-0. There'd been a discussion on social media between myself and other Gills fans, and even in the ground with myself, Boz and Stocky, before and during the game, about whether we stick to the 3-5-2 or whether we'd be braver. And I didn't think that Neil Harris would make the change at half-time the way he did. and fair play to him, because it worked an absolute treat. Connor Masterson was hooked. It was a tactical move. There was no injury, so that's good as well. It means Masterson's not picked up a knock. Neil Harris was quick to say that it could have been any of the three centre-backs that he picked. He just had to pick one. And we went to a 4-4-2 diamond. Ben Reeves was introduced at the break. Played as a 10. We had Ollie Lee at the base, and then Stuart O'Keefe and Ben Thompson from the sides of the diamond. And we immediately got on the front foot, didn't we? I think Ryan Jackson, first couple of minutes of the second period, come across to take a throw in. The ball then came back out to him. Showed good confidence, drives towards the box, shifts his weight onto his right foot. The ball ended up a row behind me, unfortunately, if you've watched the match day live. But it was good intent, and that's what we wanted from Jacko, and that's what we wanted from everyone else. And he had done that first period, to be fair. And it's when we had got into decent areas, he'd driven at the left back, Joe Jacobson, and tried to get balls into the box. We were on the front foot. We were the better side second period. Let's not pretend otherwise. Shortly after, Charlie Kelman does really well to pinch possession. Lays the ball inside right channel for Ben Thompson. He gets to the byline, takes David Stockdale out of the game with a cutback. Ryan Tafazoli leans towards it with his arm / shoulder. Couple of Gills players appeal. Obviously, we all go up in the rain, but with the benefit of a replay, I think it'd have probably been harsh. There is movement, Tafazoli towards the ball, but it's with his whole body, and his arm's not in an unnatural position. I'd imagine if it was the other way round and it was given, we'd be saying it was really, really harsh to concede a penalty in that way. So that shout went and came and went, sorry. There was then a couple of really weird bookings from the referee. He was having a really odd afternoon. That's probably the most polite way I can assess his performance. Max Amar gets done for a bit of pace by Brandon Hanlon. Who doesn't? Just grabs hold of him both hands. Doesn't get booked. A few minutes later, Charlie Kelman's trying to bring the ball under control. I think stands on the fella's toe by mistake. Yellow card. Really? So inconsistent. I know I say this all the time that we have to get used to it. It seems to be the norm at League One, but why should it be the norm? It shouldn't be. They should be better, these referees. One day a really big decision could cost the club massively in terms of promotion, relegation, a cup, anything like that. But we carried on battling hard, didn't we? It was a half chance for Jack Tucker, and we'll get to him a bit later. Ball fell to him in the box after a ricochet from a set piece. He's on the angle of the 6-yard box, swings a leg at it, doesn't really make a good connection, and David Stockdale makes a really comfortable save. But a few minutes later, that man Tucker's right in the middle of things again. Ben Reeves taking a set piece after Ben Thompson had been fouled by Hanlon. Angle of the box about 25 yards out from goal on our right-hand side. In-swinging ball gets headed up into the air. Drops to Jack Tucker, who's in the box, probably 16 yards out, but on a fairly tight angle, especially for a centre-half. Right-footed, technique perfect, connection perfect, sound perfect, bottom corner perfect, delirium in the rain, brilliant leveller from a player who's having a very good game in both boxes. And Gills, like I say, were deservedly level. There's no way that Wycombe can come out and say that we didn't deserve a goal second half. We pinned them in, we played the game in their half, we played the game in their third, and we created opportunities, didn't we? That was 15 minutes to go. Charlie Kelman had another half chance, didn't he, shortly after? Angle against him, left-footed, weaker foot, drives it straight at Stockdale, who makes a fairly routine stop. But it was us that was creating the opportunities. It was us that was doing the pressing. 4 minutes to go. Lewis Wing, straight red card, absolutely nailed on. I can't understand why Wycombe fans think that's not a foul. They're saying he got the ball. Yes, he got the ball. But the law states, if you're out of control or you go in with 2 feet off the ground and your stud's on display, it's a straight red card. Lewis Wing does all of them. Absolutely launches into Ollie Lee. Wing doesn't really complain for me looking at the replay, so that tells you all you need to know. So straight red, well deserved, and we had 5 minutes plus injury time to try and force a winner, and we did try and force a winner, but it wasn't quite to be. The big moment came right at the end, didn't it? There's a ball drops to Ben Thompson, edge of the box, snapshot. I think it's Tom Dixon-Peters, who's just come on for Stuart O'Keefe, on the shin. It's going towards goal. David Stockdale, unsighted maybe, spills it in front of himself. Dane Oliver prods it towards goal. It bounces over Stockdale towards the bottom corner. It's cleared off the line. Dane, Charlie Kelman, a couple of others are shouting at the linesman. I'd shouted at the linesman for pretty much all games. He was all absolutely horrendous, as was the one the far side on the Medway stand and the man in the middle. But in fairness to the linesman this side, it was nowhere near crossing the line. I'm not even sure it reached the line. Would we have deserved it if it had gone in, based on our second half performance? Absolutely. Would we have deserved it based on the whole game? Probably not. So when the full-time whistle blew, a little bit of disappointment that we'd not seen it over the line. But real pride in a performance, real pride in a manager who decided to be brave and make changes. Number one, going to a system that he'd not used in all of his 14 games since arriving. Number two, for taking off a holding midfielder by trade and bringing on another striker to try and win 3 points and not just settle for one. And all in all, it wasn't a bad day. Morecambe got beat at Cambridge. Fleetwood threw away another lead at home to Accrington. Wimbledon only drew at home to MK Don. So I think there's 3 or 4 teams now on the same points, separated by goal difference. Easter will be massive, but we'll worry about that next weekend. All in all, really good second half showing from the Gills and definitely deserved their draw. Having a look at Wycombe in more detail, I know their best player on the day was now. First of all, I think I got the name of the centre half wrong, didn't I, earlier in the video? It's Farino, sorry, not Fiorini. He plays for Lincoln City, I believe. But yeah, in terms of the Chairboys, they've got good players. That's why they're in and around the playoff places. David Stockdale historically has been a championship keeper. I've always liked Ryan Tafazoli as a centre half, especially at this level. Brandon Hanlon came off the bench and had an impact, set up the goal. Gareth McCleary, we've mentioned, very good at this level. Lewis Wing, a good player. Rush of blood to the head towards the end. But for me, best player for Wycombe. And I was quite surprised he was taken off with about 7 or 8 minutes plus injury time to go with Sam Vokes. I thought he was very good on the afternoon. It's been a real learning curve for the likes of Jack Tucker and Connor Masterson, 2 young centre-backs in our side, who I thought were marshalled fairly well by the more experienced Max Emer. But yeah, Vokes, really, really good at the heart of everything that Wycombe did really well. He's a big bloke, he uses his body well, he's clever, he knows the dark arts as well, knows how to win free kicks, knows how to make fouls without being penalised by officials. But yeah, it's a really good finish for the goal. Weaker foot, left-footed, takes it early, might have caught Aaron Chapman by surprise with that, going back to that comment I made earlier about should he be beaten at his near post. 83 minutes played for Vokes, 3 shots on target, so he was a threat all afternoon, scored a goal, he's played a key pass as well. Like I say, just used all his experience all game long and made it really hard for us. But in fairness to us, I thought we stood up to it really well. And as the game went on, his threat did deteriorate slightly. But I still wasn't displeased when Vokes was withdrawn with 7 minutes plus injury time to go for former Gills man, Bayo in Fenwa, who was, of course, making his last appearance in Kent before retiring at the end of the season. And I think just a little moment to appreciate Bayo, the beast. Social media phenomenon now as well as a professional footballer. Everything that he's done, not just for Wycombe, but the game in this country as a whole. He's an absolute superstar. 2 decent spells in Kent. And I think it's a measure of the man that Bayo spent a good hour, I'd imagine. He certainly was still there when we left. Not a selfie missed, not a photo opportunity missed. Signed autographs, signing shirts, programmes, not just for, young fans. This was more adult fans as well who wanted a piece of Bayo before he eventually hangs up them well-worn boots. So we wish him all the best in his retirement. And like I say, best wanderer on the day for me, the wandering star, was Sam Vokes. Now back to the Gills and our player ratings. Myself and Boz discussed this walking out of the ground back to the car after the game. It's a very solid performance, wasn't it? Especially second half. So there was probably a lot of, 6s first period and then probably nearer 8s in the second half, and we were the better side and we was on the front foot trying to win the football match. So overall, we hope we've got it about right. We'd hope that you don't agree with everything. We'd like you to agree with a little bit more sometimes. Sometimes we're too harsh, sometimes we're too generous. Is what it is, isn't it? Like I've said before, it's all subjective. It all depends where your starting point is as well in terms of match ratings. If you're starting as an average match rating at 5, as an average performance, I started at 6. So I went Aaron Chapman 7 with Boz. We then went Connor Masterson 6. Not quite at it, the young QPR player this week. A couple of poor decisions, a couple of rush clearances. He's bound to have off days. He's still a kid, he's still learning his trade, but he's been very good on the whole since he came into the football club. Max Emer 7, solid again. And Jack Tucker 7.5. Obviously, we always had half a point on for the goal, but Jack was very, very good on the whole. The wing-backs, Ryan Jackson, a good solid 7 defensively and trying to get at Joe Jacobson as well. Got a couple of good balls into the box. His throw-ins are always an absolute threat. David Tondo, we didn't give a rating, unfortunately, and he lasted about 10 minutes before having to come off with that injury. Stuart O'Keefe, 7. Captain's performance again, does exactly what he says on the tin. Ollie Lee, still don't get it. It's the longest experiment in the world. Him as an orthodox centre midfielder. He's not an orthodox centre midfielder. He's a 10. 6 out of 10 for us. Didn't influence the game in an attacking sense. There was one period of play, I think, second half, where Farino, the centre-half, drives from the edge of his own D, runs over the halfway line. Ollie Lee then goes to engage, stops and almost just shows him through and says, run to the edge of the D. You can't be doing that if you're a centre midfielder for me. And I don't think I've ever seen him make a slide tackle. You can't have a centre midfielder that doesn't make sliding tackles. So 6 out of 10 for us might be harsh, but that's how we see it. Ben Thompson, 6.5, plenty of energy, couple of really good moments, but not quite at the levels we know Tomo can get to. Front two, I've been told I was harsh on Verdane Oliver. We gave him 6.5, battled all day long, got absolutely nada out of the referee. Seen a few comments from Wycombe fans who saying the stuff that V was up to, but centre halves and were given as good as they got. Like we've said, it's a foul for him in the lead up to the goal. It just seemed to me that he got penalised for jumping for the ball. There was no intent from Wycombe players a few times. They were just planting themselves and letting V hit them. Surely, I don't know, you'd have to ask the referee. Charlie Kelman, we gave a 7. I'm not getting into the officials too much. Worked tirelessly again, run the channels really well. Was involved in a lot of decent stuff that we did. Snapshot he's slightly unlucky with on his weaker foot. If he'd been on his right foot, he might have buried it. Substitutes, Robbie McKenzie, solid 7. Took him 5 or 10 minutes just to settle down. A couple of poor touches. After that, it was like he'd never been away. Ben Reeves, really, really good. We've not seen enough of him. We know that. He's not been fit enough. We know that. He knows that. Neil Harris knows that. If we can keep him on the pitch for the final 4 games, we've got a good chance of picking up points. I thought he really swung the game in our favour. He was probing, he was always willing to try to make something happen. He didn't always pick the safe option, and it's his ball into the box that causes enough, distraction at very worst for Jack Tucker to volley in. So 7 for Ben Reeves. Tom Dixon-Peters, not on long enough. We gave him not applicable. If that late chance had bounced off his knee and gone in the bottom corner, though, he'd got 15 out of 10. That's our match ratings. Agree, disagree, tell us why. We all enjoy a debate, don't we? But that's how we saw it. In terms of Gills' man of the match, like I say, it would have been Tom Dixon-Peters if that late effort had trickled over the line, because he'd got 15, even though he'd been on the pitch about 5 minutes. But it wasn't to be. There were plenty of candidates for man of the match. Stuart O'Keefe, again, really good in the middle of the park. Max Emer, for me, really good at centre half in the middle of the 3 first period. Then back in a flat back 4 second half. Like I've already said, Vokes' influence on the game did deteriorate as the minutes pass, and that's no small part due to Jack Tucker and Max Emer. Aaron Chapman, solid in goal. Made a couple of saves, didn't he, that he had to. Ryan Jackson, very good. Charlie Kelman, very good. Ben Reeves, Robbie McKenzie from the bench. There were some really solid showings, a real proper team performance looking at our ratings. But with the goal and the fact that he was very good defensively as well, Jack Tucker was myself and Boz's man of the match. Real good battle with Sam Vokes, like I've said. And then a small battle with Bayo Fenway at the end. 2 of the biggest centre forwards you're probably going to come across in this division. Jack stood up to all of it, didn't he? He's been slightly below par this season, but who hasn't compared to his first 2 seasons in the first team under Steve Evans? But 6 clean sheets in 14, only 9 conceded or 11 conceded in that time since Neil Harris come in. That's a third of the season. So out of form, yes, but getting back to somewhere near the levels that we know he can be and where we need him to be for these final 4 cup finals. Played 90 minutes, 5 clearances, 1 block, 1 interception, 1 tackle, won 100% of his duels. So that's not just on the deck, that's in the air as well. And that's a phenomenal effort considering he was up against Vokes and Fenway. No shrinking violets, the pair of them, are they? Both been around the block, both know how to play the game. And Jack stood up to all of it. 2 shots on target, not something you see for a centre half. That one that Stockdale fell on, that he didn't really get a good connection on, and then the one that Stockdale got absolutely nowhere near as it whistled past him into the bottom corner. Absolute thunderbolt. Such a good goal, such control and technique, like I've already said. I've watched it quite a few times, I won't lie. I think Gills put the video up, didn't they, from behind the goal cam. The noise, absolutely sweet as a nut. Jack Tucker, man of the match. Right, that is enough from myself for this Monday review. I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts, my reflections on the game. You might agree, you might disagree. Let me know what you think in the box down below on YouTube. Get commenting on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Another big week in store, isn't it? Easter, make or break. Currently just inside the bottom 4 by 1 goal. That's all it is. Go to Cheltenham, Good Friday. Host Fleetwood, Easter Monday. I will be going to the Johnny Rock Stadium Friday, early-ish start, 8:30 from the ground, I think it is. Looking forward to it. Like I said earlier in the week, if my record at Cheltenham this coming Friday is as good as it was the Thursday and Friday when I was at the racecourse a few weeks ago, then fingers crossed for a good performance and a positive result. Be another new ground for me, so that's another thing to look forward to. Be no match preview this week, obviously with 2 match day lives over the weekend. We'll be concentrating on both of them and trying to have some family time as well with the kids over the long weekend. Enjoy your week. Like I say, hope your Monday's not been too stressful. It's always better going into the office on the back of a positive performance and a positive result. See you Friday. If you're there, come and say hello. Come and get involved. I'll be looking for people to talk to. Bos and Stocky not going to this one. Enjoy your week. We'll see you Friday. Up the Gills.